For the longest time, I've wanted to do what some other people do and have a forever Minecraft world. Just one that you keep coming back to and you keep building on, but I've never actually been able to hold myself to it. So today I'm starting a new world from scratch with some quality of life mods like Farmer's Delight, Biomes of Plenty, and Promenade to try and give myself lots to keep busy on while reading some stories from Reddit. So feel free to draw, write, study, cook, whatever it is that you need a little white noise for, and please enjoy. Our first story comes from the user Soggy Boy. My husband fell for a warranty scam and is mad at me for not being empathetic enough. I'm 24 non binary and my husband is 23 male. We've been together for almost 8 years and have been married for 1 year. This started when my husband texted me at work about something involving a car warranty, so I replied saying that I'd want to talk more about it when we're both home from work. Later, I get a text saying that he was mad about something and had called his mom, then followed with saying that he's going by the bank. When my husband gets home, he talked for about 2 hours before he finally tells me what happened. He got a call at work about a car warranty saying that he thought it sounded legit because they had his name, his address, and his car info. I immediately spotted the scam. He tells me that it sounded like a good plan and that the website was legit. He said he was transferred between people 4 different times, that they wouldn't let him call back later, that they were rude and pressuring him, the caller ID doesn't match the callback number. All of these are signs that this is a scam. He did give them his credit card info over the phone. Even worse, he claimed that he was safeguarding by using a card that expires next month. Of course, I was shocked and upset that he would do that. He told me that the bank said to contact the vendor to cancel the warranty. I realized that he thought there was an actual company and that he was just ripped off on the price. I tried to tell him that this was a scam, that there isn't a warranty at all, but they kept trying to convince me that it was real. He even sent an email to the real company about canceling. I'm worried about this happening again, and I'm hurt and angry that he made a financial decision on our car and didn't even talk to me. When he realized he'd made a mistake, he called his mother, not his spouse. There was even a point where he was really upset, and I had held him and told him that it was okay. The card was locked, and they couldn't take more from us. I said that they were bad people who used his good nature against him. He started saying that I wasn't being empathetic, that I was just focused on being right, that this was a mistake and I didn't need to tell him it was a scam, that he wouldn't have done this if he thought it was a scam. It felt like he was trying to gaslight me with saying that he knew there wasn't a warranty this whole time. He was mad that I didn't think using an expiring card was the safest option. At one point, he said his intrusive thoughts were doubting if I still loved him. What am I supposed to do? I feel quilted and gaslit about the situation. I don't know how to be supportive and understanding while also being honest about this being a scam. I don't know. Am I wrong? What am I supposed to do here? It really seems like your husband is impressively gullible. I mean, that's what, 3 or 4 different red flags that clearly show that this is a scam. I mean, there was an entire thing going around a few years ago, uh, like a meme about the car's extended warranty, and none of that threw up any red flags, not at all. Went through the entire thing, including giving credit card information, which is just really, unless it's a trusted source, you shouldn't be doing that over the phone anyway. But that's ridiculous. And then to go crying to his mom before telling his spouse about it. I mean, that tells me that he knew that he was doing something wrong, that he'd really made a bad mistake, and I guess didn't want to upset or worry his spouse by telling them. Not that that makes that better. Not by any means. God, no. But wow, no. The OP is not the asshole in this case. They should be watching out for their finances, clearly. I mean, clearly, if their husband is this susceptible to one of the most joked about scams lately. But down in the comments, people agreed that this person is not the asshole. From the user Lunar Eclipse, they say, "What are you supposed to be empathetic about? Sorry, honey, that you fell for the scam that the news warns everyone about all the time. Not the asshole. You did nothing wrong. He's projecting his anger at himself onto you because he is embarrassed he wasn't smart enough to spot the scam. And for your information, any card with your name on it, even one close to expiration, still gives them info on you." And in reply to that, Paul Rudd's Drag Race replies, I'm guessing he wants you to tell him, I'm glad you ignored me when I asked you to wait so we could talk when I was available. You're so much smarter than I am, so you really didn't need my input anyway. Those scammers were big, ruthless, manipulative meanies. Anyone would have fallen for their lies. You had no choice. You didn't do anything that anyone else wouldn't have done. In fact, I probably would have given them all of our credit cards and you only gave them one. You saved us a lot of trouble. This doesn't for 1 second call into doubt your common sense. Forget about how this will hurt us financially. Let me stroke your hair while I remind you of how right and smart you were. It's, it's just spot on. And then user dramatic leggings comments, not the asshole. Admitting he was scammed means admitting that he was gullible. He is protecting his ego by insisting it was just a bad price from a real company. He's accusing you of lacking empathy because you aren't agreeing with his false reality. You aren't wrong. You're the grounded one in this situation. He's drowning in shame and lashing out at the person holding the life raft. Stay firm on the facts, but keep the hug available for the person, your husband. User Green Sled says, not the asshole, your husband is gullible. User I have boxer dogs says, not the asshole, but I suggest you, and especially your husband, become regular visitors of the subreddit r/scams. I don't blame you for being concerned that he'll fall for more scams in the future. I find that him tiring this on you to be disturbing. Such an unattractive quality in a partner. But you've been with him for a long time, so I guess it works for you. Our second story comes from the user Curious Cactus. Am I the asshole for not letting my fiance have angry reactions around my mom? My partner reminded me recently to re-sign our lease for the upcoming year to avoid a fee. Although I'd requested the renewal, I forgot to sign the lease that was emailed to us until we were on vacation. While we were quietly sitting together with my mom, he suddenly slapped the couch and maybe cursed. While he's capable of yelling, this wasn't very loud, it was just sudden and shifted the energy. My mother was startled. She's very sensitive, and my dad's reactions are less sudden than this. I was startled too, and I asked him what was wrong. When he said that we got charged $300, I immediately became stressed and went into damage control mode. I emailed the office and worried. They ultimately waived the fee. I think by the end of the conversation, I said I would cover it entirely if I have to. What escalated is that my mother, who's liked him for years, did not like his reaction. She said it almost gave her a heart attack, commented about his behavior, immediately tried to comfort and defend me by saying that $300 is not that much. We're aware that it is a lot, of course. We resolved to wait on the leasing office's response. However, later I brought up to my partner that it would have been nice for him to say something after his reaction, just a simple sorry for startling you to my mom to ease the situation. Overall, he's of the mindset that his reaction was normal, so there's objectively nothing to apologize for, and that she actually attacked him. I'm of a mindset that if we make people feel a certain way, it's not wrong to acknowledge it, as he said nothing after her statements. This resulted in me and him arguing, with his point being that I'm using his justified reaction to deflect blame about the fee, and that I'm unable to acknowledge that she overreacted. For context, he is a very black and white kind of person and generally doesn't do very well with comforting or giving an inch when he sees his reactions are justified, or that he's objectively right, which often leads to conflict. At most, he'll say to me, I will admit I got angry, but you have zero ability to admit any fault, and your actions are the trigger. He worries me sometimes about his ability to bite his tongue and has gotten into verbal altercations with female friends before, so I do admit I'm biased and hypersensitive to anything that he does. In this case, any time that he's pointed out the fee is my fault, I haven't denied that when he pointed it out. I had, and when he pointed out that I hadn't verbatim apologized, I did. Overall, he thinks that I lack accountability and that she had an infantile response. Am I the asshole because I made a mistake and I wouldn't just let him have a frustrated reaction without apologizing for it? I'm sorry, but if the biggest thing someone does after having reminded their partner, perhaps repeatedly, about getting this thing done to avoid a hefty fee, because God knows that the fees are hefty nowadays, and the worst thing they do is smack the couch and maybe say fuck. Okay. And which part of this was actually horrifying? Be- I'm not seeing it. I don't see it. No, this person is the asshole. Your husband is allowed, or your fiance is allowed to be frustrated about the fact that you weren't listening or weren't focused on getting the lease in to avoid having to pay more. And I just based off of what I'm reading here, the fiance is probably correct about this person having a bit of an accountability issue, because it seems like they're trying to take accountability, but at the same time are going, well, yeah, I did this, but he slapped a couch. Okay. All right. Cool. What else did he do? Uh, they actually have an update on the post. The actual fee was like $337. If you're reading the other post, this vacation coincided partially with a conference which covered my lodging, and since we stayed for vacation, we split their expenses with our own personal funds. No mother-in-law freeloading. I should not have word I should not have used the word let. He can obviously have his own emotions and freedom. It still really doesn't change the fact that while you might be trying to take accountability, you are also offloading most of the blame onto your fiance for having a understandable knee-jerk reaction to hearing about the fact that you're gonna potentially be charged more than you should be if you had just listened. And in the comments, Lark says, so he smacked the couch in frustration after you forgot to sign the lease and incurred a financial penalty after multiple reminders, according to his post, which is in another comment. I did not know about that. I did not know about that. I might have to go find that. I'd be super pissed at you too. If your mom can't handle a swear word in a loud noise, she's got larger problems to handle. User Roll for Snackies says, wait, so your fiance made a post about this several hours ago and got overwhelming support for his side. Did you make an account just to write this post to see if people would take your side? You're the asshole either way. His reaction was understandable considering the circumstances, and trying to control what he can or can't do because your mom is sensitive is wrong. User Frankenstein's Robot replies to that and says, not to mention, being sensitive could mean anything. Verbal altercations could mean anything. You've described one slap and possible swearing, but never mentioned if he's ever done something like this before, meaning physical. Verbal altercations towards female friends could be that they said something hurtful to him and he defended himself. Could be they asked him a personal question and kept pushing when he didn't want to give an answer. For the sensitive part, does your mom have trauma that slapping a couch really did scare her? Or is she sensitive because she's easily offended when someone doesn't respond the way she wants? She'll get upset and overly dramatic. You were responsible for one thing and couldn't even do that, knowing that if you didn't, y'all would be out of a lot of money. In this economy, owing anything over $100 is a lot of money. You're the asshole. Apologize and get over yourself. User Little Suggestion says, you're the asshole. You forgot to sign the lease after he reminded you, got charged $300, and he slapped a couch and maybe swore. Like, that's it? And now he's the one who needs to apologize? User Imperfection says, you're the asshole. Why do you act like your fiance can't be upset? This whole thing was your fault, and his reaction was not outrageous. Your mom should stay out of your business. So, I am actually going to try and find that post real quick. All right, so I found the other part of the post, or well, the other side of this argument, from user NFTMFT. Am I the asshole? Argument with fiance and her mom. Hi everyone. This weekend I was on a beach trip with my fiance and her mother. At one point, I opened my laptop to pay rent, and I saw the balance was $350 higher than expected. My immediate reaction was to raise my hand and slap the couch I was sitting on. This was out of frustration because I had reminded my fiance multiple times, around 5 to 10 times over the past 2 weeks, to sign the lease to avoid any penalties. My reaction drew attention, and they asked what was wrong. After a brief pause, I told my fiance that we were charged a fine because the lease wasn't signed. She looked stressed, but her mom responded by saying that I almost gave her a heart attack and criticized my behavior, saying that $350 isn't that much money. For context, her mom tends to be anxious and did not contribute financially to the trip at all. While my fiance and I tried to address the situation, her mom continued defending her and made inaccurate claims, like saying I had also signed late, which both my fiance and I knew wasn't true. Later that night, my fiancée and I argued because she felt I owed her mom an apology for startling her. She focused heavily on my reaction, saying it reflected anger issues. What frustrated me was that she continued to focus on my knee-jerk reaction for hours instead of acknowledging her role in not signing the lease or what I felt was an overreaction from her mom. The argument carried on into the next day. She continued to label my behavior as anger issues, even comparing slapping the couch to throwing things, despite knowing that I haven't thrown objects or been physically aggressive in our 10 years together. I'll admit that after prolonged arguments, I may raise my voice, but she does as well. This morning, she sent multiple texts with clips and posts about how a partner should behave during conflict. Things like staying calm, comforting during arguments, and examples of people being labeled as having anger issues. Even when acknowledging I don't throw things, she said the principle still applies. My main frustration is that she refuses to acknowledge any responsibility and continues to frame my reaction as the central issue. From my perspective, my response was a brief, frustrated reaction, while the larger issue was the missed lease deadline and the lack of accountability. Her mom's actions are a separate issue. It also feels like bringing up anger issues is deflecting from her role and her mom's distasteful reaction in the situation. Now, like the comments on the other fiance's post were saying, this guy is getting overwhelming support and not being the asshole, because hearing it in this other way, it's even more clear that she's really passive aggressive. I mean, sending texts and clips being like, well, you should have been calm. You should have been calmer. You should have comforted me, even though I messed up. It's a bit crazy to me. And on the comments of his post, user Icy Assistance says, passive aggressive deflection clearly learned from her mother. You could think of this another way. She didn't pay the bill as subconsciously she doesn't want to move in with you. It sounds like mother and daughter like being bankrolled. Maybe it was an accident, but karma is waving and saying that you're better off on your own. I would be tempted to say, yes, maybe I have some anger issues I need to work on by myself. I'm going to take a break from this relationship as I need to focus on making myself a better person. Basically putting the blame and focus on her, then listen to the backpedaling. And OP replies to that comment, updating. She has acknowledged her wrongdoing in the situation and has given more thought on her role in the situation. At this current point in time, this feels like progress, and I have chosen to note to break a 10-year relationship as we're both in our late 20s and there's still time to grow. Marriage will be postponed until both of us have our issues with each other resolved. Thank you everyone for your comments. Having multiple third-party points of view helped her reconsider her position. User Jealous Contract replies to that and says, she didn't reconsider her position. She realized that she was about to lose the person who will pay for her, take care of her, and she's playing nice for now. Postpone marriage and kids until you are sure that she's actually taking responsibility. I'm guessing in 3 to 6 months, you'll be back to cleaning up her mess. Look, maybe this works for you two because she cleans up your messes in a different area. That said, her mess can't keep costing you money. Our third post comes from user Personal Bit. Am I the asshole? I told my daughter she needs to get over her jealousy and it is her own fault her life is the way it is. This has been an ongoing issue and I need some outside opinions with my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter is working as a waitress ever since she dropped out of college. She wasn't going to classes and her GPA had plummeted. The university ended up kicking her out. Due to this, she doesn't have much money to do anything. My other daughter is graduating and just got a job offer to a very good company. I will call the oldest Madison and the younger Becky. Fake names. Becky is going to make good money starting her job and doesn't have any loans. She got a full ride to her college. Madison is in debt and struggling, and this is where the help issues come from. She believes that she should be doing better than Becky because she is older. I've tried over and over to help her, but she has turned bitter about anything that Becky achieves. Becky told us that she's planning on going to Iceland this fall. It was a quick conversation, but in the car ride home, Madison went off. She was pissed that she gets to do all this cool stuff and that it wasn't fair. She started to insult Becky, and that is when I had enough. I told her that she needs to get over her jealousy, and the reason her life is the way it is her own fault. We got into an argument, and she's pissed. My wife thinks I went too far, but I think she needs to hear it. I would agree that your oldest daughter needs to hear this. If she wasn't going to her classes and her GPA plummeted as a result of that, then yes, it is her fault. Maybe there's some underlying issue or underlying reason as to why she didn't want to go to these classes. Maybe she could have dropped one and picked up a different class. Maybe she should have offset her workload, something. But to turn it around and just go after her younger sister for doing well is more than a little bit callous, I would think. It's just, there is a certain way that older siblings and younger siblings act towards one another, and it can be very filled with vitriol. Oh my god. But that still doesn't make it right. And it especially doesn't make it right when it comes to money and jealousy and being upset that your younger sibling might be doing better than you are when you haven't made the steps to better your life. But I don't think that this parent is an asshole for telling his daughter or their daughter um, that it is her own fault and that she needs to get over her jealousy of her younger sister. In the comments, user Effective No says, "Look, I also failed college because I wasn't going to classes. I could blame it on depression and undiagnosed ADHD, but I still know it's my own fault. I would never blame anyone else for my own failures. Your daughter needed to hear what you told her. Life doesn't care about what she thinks she is, or what she thinks is and isn't fair, and it's not her sister's fault that she's a failure. And the whole she deserves to be more successful because she's older. What is she? 4? She needs to grow up. You're not the asshole." User Alternative Head says, "Reality check, but Madison is still young. She can go back to school, look for provincial or state funding, have her explore other career options, help her ensure that her mental health is okay, therapy, etc. Have that conversation with her if she allows/is ready. Not sure if they both live with you right now, but shit is expensive. If she wants to travel through, what about a job or career in that industry, like a flight attendant or something that doesn't require a degree? Yeah, my sister is similar, but she graduated and has a degree, but chose not to use it. But she can be pretty mean to be a younger sibling. I've been working up the ladder, but am I happier? Yes." User Kellyanne comments, "Not the asshole. I followed a path similar to your oldest. I was an insanely gifted kid and school came very easily to me. I never studied and I rarely did homework because I didn't need to. I got my ass handed to me in college because I didn't have the discipline or study skills. My GPA plummeted and I dropped out. I spent the next few years taking classes here and there while working restaurant and retail jobs. I pulled myself together eventually and decided I wanted more. I went back to school seriously and finished my undergrad and an MBA. I worked my way up to a nice corporate job and I have a good life now. There's still hope, but she has to want to do the work." The last story comes to us from user Odd Willingness. "Am I the asshole for telling my husband he can't drive the baby places anymore? My husband and I are new parents and it's been stressful for both of us, both physically and mentally, and I need to know if I'm overreacting or not. I get really bad motion sickness in cars, and since giving birth, it's gotten worse to the point where I can't be in a moving car for longer than 5 minutes. For this reason, my husband has taken our child to their last 3 doctor's appointments alone. Each time when he returned home, I realized that he forgot to strap the baby into the car seat. Now, my husband is an extremely forgetful person and has been for as long as I've known him. A big part of our relationship has been us working through his memory problems. The first time it happened, I nervously laughed it off as a lapse in memory that both of us understood could never be repeated. The second time, I freaked out and I told him that this was not something that is acceptable to forget. The most recent time was this morning. We got into a huge fight about it, and I told him in some not so nice terms that I do not want him driving alone with the baby anymore. My husband thinks that this is an overreaction because we both know how bad his memory is, and the pediatrician is so close by, and nothing bad happened on the drives. But it's like he's trying to justify gambling our baby's life based on the fact that nothing bad has happened yet. He's buckled the baby in one other time that he's taken the baby out on his own, but I won't be comfortable with him driving the baby around until he's buckling them in 100% of the time. He wants us to sit down and brainstorm what we can do to help him remember like we would usually do, and while I agree we can put a plan into place to help him remember in the future, until that plan is in place and I know that it's working, I'm not taking any chances, so I've asked my mother to take my child to their next doctor's appointment. My husband does not like that I've gotten my mother involved and says that I'm trying to embarrass him. I've tried explaining that I didn't tell my mom why she had to take the baby to the next appointment, and also it's only until my motion sickness is more manageable and I can drive again. But he's really upset that I've taken what he sees as a drastic action by getting my mom involved in any capacity, as well as banning him from driving alone with the baby. Am I the asshole? God, no. God, no, you're not the asshole. It really is gambling with a baby's life. To be new parents of a baby that's head is so soft that won't fully harden and develop properly for what, the first 2 years of life, it really is gambling. And especially if the baby's not buckled in. God forbid your husband slams on the brakes a little too hard and the baby goes flying forwards. What's the plan then? Sorry, babe, I forgot. Now our baby's concussed. It doesn't seem like there is any plan outside of avoiding accountability for his own forgetfulness. I'm also an extremely forgetful person. I forget a lot of the things that I'm supposed to be doing, or even stuff that I wanted to do in the past but haven't gotten around to yet. But never would that ever translate to, yeah, I just forgot to strap the kid in, even though it's a law to have anyone strapped in, especially babies. It, and then to get mad that she got her mother involved, that part's what really gets me. Especially because she says she didn't tell her mother anything about why she has to do this, just that she needs help. Jeez. Um, in the comments, OK Calligrapher says, "How do you forget? When you put the baby in the car seat, that's when you buckle them. What about the process? Is there room to forget?" User Saf Pearl replies, "Exactly. You forget to buy milk at the store or to grab your wallet when you're leaving the house. You don't forget to strap the baby in when you're putting it in the car seat. That's not okay. If he can't remember that, how can he be trusted to feed, change, or keep the baby safe in general?" User Tress What says, "Oh my god, your husband is not fit to drive the child or look after the child. If he can't remember the most basic step of transporting a baby, how will he remember how and when to feed them or burp them or change them or lie them on their back to sleep or give them medication if needed, or any of the most basic tasks of caregiving? He may leave the baby behind altogether. He may leave the baby in an overheating car while he's running errands. You are not the asshole and not overreacting. I don't understand how your husband is functioning with this level of incompetence. Is it willful incompetence? Is it a truly deep neurological issue? Both need firm and committed actions with different solutions. Absolutely, you need your mother involved to help if she can, but also this man needs to own his own incompetence and fix his problem, or he's unfit to parent. It's harsh, but you can't protect his ego over your baby's life. User Rinky Dink Mink says, "And what are these memory problems exactly? And do they have a habit of manifesting, of forgetting to do or being incompetent at things that she would have done instead? Or forgetting hurtful things he's done? There are different types of memory, and forgetting to buckle in your child should be a learned procedure that doesn't even require conscious episodic memory to complete correctly. You can learn skills such as tying your shoes or playing chess even with no ability to recall events. So, unless this guy's memory problem is so severe and disabling that he struggles to learn the tiniest new skill, he's bullshitting her about this being because of his memory. Or she's fooling herself. Not clear if he said that he forgot or she's putting the words in his mouth first. If this guy's memory issues are honestly this fucking bad, he should probably see an expert and get a proper diagnosis and help. But seeing as he's capable of driving a car to the grocery store and buying the food, I'm not even going to bother finishing that sentence. I got played once by someone who claimed not to remember what they'd done to me. Took a very long time to realize that that was lies and that what they were doing was keeping me running around in circles chasing my tail instead of just calling them on their bullshit. I suggest OP stops helping him with his memory issues, never allows him to be alone with the baby, and insists that he gets a neuropsychological assessment done before she ever entertains the notion of him having a genuine problem again. I bet you anything they find nothing more than some mild differences at most. User Smoking Barbecue says if the police pull him over for something and see that the baby is not strapped in properly, that is likely a call to CPS and is a huge fucking issue. OP doesn't want that. User Mrs. Wilberforce says, not the asshole. And what do you mean he wants to brainstorm with you to see what you can do to make him remember? This is beyond forgetfulness. This is just not giving a fuck about the safety of your baby. This is an infant. A hard shake is enough to harm them at this point. If someone rear-ended him or he tapped a pole in the parking lot, at this point, it would be enough to seriously harm your child. I wouldn't let him drive that baby anywhere. And I want to say, I also get car sick, but never when I'm driving. It would be worth taking non-drowsy Dramamine or asking your OB for medication to treat your nausea to avoid relying on him again. This is horrifying. I'm very much with you, OP, and I would not accept the fact that you need to be somehow involved to help him remember. He puts the baby in the seat. It's one more step. It's impossible to imagine how you can help him remember when it's right in front of him. Well, that is all of the stories I have for today. And if you've made it this far into the video, please consider liking or subscribing or whatever it is that you want to do. I hope that at least listening to some of the crazy stuff that goes on the Am I the Asshole subreddit was good enough to draw or study to. I also watch a lot of these videos. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. But goodbye. Goodbye.